Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video. Now if you're new to Airtable and it feels overwhelming, trust me, you're not alone. We're all one step, right? Now there is this pattern that I've noticed amongst beginners where people get to meet Airtable for the first time and they just jump right into it without understanding the structure behind how Airtable operates, and this is where databases get messy. We're going to talk about Airtable's hierarchy from top down to the bottom: workspaces, tables, fields, records, views, all inclusive. So we're going to start right at the very top. Now think of Airtable as a filing cabinet, right? So you know all those very big filing cabinets that you find in offices. Yes. Now Airtable can be likened to a filing cabinet. Beautiful. So now at the very top, which is the filing cabinet, or if we were to picture it on a pyramid, right? At the very top we have the workspaces. Now the workspaces are the highest men in the room. It's the highest man in the room. And if we're to use the filing cabinet analogy, the workspace is the entire filing cabinet, right? Now, a workspace is a top level container for everything. It's where every other thing is built into. This is where your bases are arranged. You have one workspace for everything you intend to build out in Airtable, or you can have different workspaces for specific reasons right here in Airtable. It's all dependent on how you intend to structure it. But understanding how workspaces operate is key to understanding pricing and permission levels. This is the second man in the room, the second on the hierarchy, which are the base. If we were to get back into our filing cabinet analogy, the bases are the drawers which we find in the filing cabinet. Now the bases can be likened to a complete project or a system. The basis is where you find everything related to a specific purpose. Let's give an example. So in an organization, we can have separate bases for separate departments: operations, sales, customer service. This can be built into separate bases in one workspace. Now this, like I said, depends on how you intend to structure out your workspaces. So bases can be very powerful. Here are some powerful things about bases. Now bases can have multiple tables within them. Now this can cover for whatever specific purpose that those bases were built for. Now bases can also be shared independently, right? And bases can be synced to others. So one base can be synced to another base. Now that brings us to the third man in the room, which are the tables. Now the tables can be found inside our bases, and if we were to place it under the hierarchy, it comes directly below the bases, right? Now going back to our filing cabinet analogy, now we have the filing cabinet, the entire cabinet, which are the workspaces. We have the drawers inside the cabinet, which are the bases. Now inside this cabinet we tend to find folders. Now these folders are our table. Now tables are where your actual data lives, right? Now some very important features of tables right here in Airtable is that tables can be linked to one another. Now mind you, tables are built for specific purposes. So now let's take for example, in our operations department, we can have specific tables that cater to specific levels of operations in a company, right? So tables can be linked to one another, which we're going to talk about linking of tables in later videos, right? So now tables are where your actual data lives. Now this would bring us to the fourth man in the room, which are your fields. Now your fields can also be called columns in your tables, right? Beautiful. So now each field stores a specific type of data. For example, some of the fields that can be found in Airtable are fields like the number field, the single line text field, the long text field. Now these are specific field types, and inside the specific field types you get to store specific data which can be related to the specific field types. So for example, in single line text, as the name states, data that are text related are stored here. In the number field, number related data are stored right here in the number field. Now, field types are where Airtable gets really powerful, and you're not just limited to text field. There are a range of other fields which we'll talk about in depth in subsequent videos, right? Fields are very important. It's a very important part of Airtable, and choosing the right type of field matters when you're building out your databases or your apps or your fields right here in Airtable. Now that brings us to the fifth man in the room, which are the records. Now a record is a single row in your table. So it's one record, one entry, right? Now when you expand your record, you're able to see all the various details about that singular record right there in your table. Now this is where you add details, you add detailed information about a record. You're able to add files, attachments, numbers, emails, phone numbers. You can attach all this information about a singular record. So the fields and the records are the building blocks of your table. It's what actually makes a table what it is. It's what makes it, it's what enables you call a table because it's what stores the records, or rather it's what stores the data right inside your table. Now that brings us to the sixth man in the room, which are the views, and it's the last on our hierarchy list. Now the views is simply put, or rather the views simply put is the different ways in which you intend to see your data. And you want to see your data in the blue segment, you're able to structure your data that way, and it shows you everything under the blue segment. Do you want to see your data in the yellow segment? It structures your data in that exact format, and it presents it to you in the yellow segment. So the views are very important features here in Airtable because you're able to see your data in different forms. Now when creating views in Airtable, you can filter, you can sort, you can group, you can even customize how you intend that your data appears. And this is one of the very beautiful features that Airtable has to offer. So now when you understand this hierarchy, Airtable gets easier to walk around, it gets easier to build whatever you need to build in Airtable, and it makes your job way easier. So just to recap, using the filing cabinet analogy, we have the filing cabinet. The workspace, which is the highest man in the room, is the entire filing cabinet, right? Now the drawers are the bases. The folders inside the drawers are our tables. The documents inside these folders can be referred to as our fields, and then the information in this document can be referred to as our records. And the views, which is the last man standing in the room, can be referred to the various ways in which we organize our folders, right? So this helps you understand that Airtable runs on a structure, and when you understand this hierarchy and understand that this is the structure on which Airtable operates, it gets easier to roll around Airtable, it gets easier to work with Airtable. So in subsequent videos, we're going to talk about these various steps or these various structures in Airtable and how they operate to make your work right here in Airtable easier. Now don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on subsequent videos where we get to break all this down. Comment if this video cleared some confusion that you might have had about Airtable or Airtable structure, and I'll see you on the next one. My name is Pamela, and I'm a no-code low-code developer and an AI automation expert. Bye for now.